Hello, everyone out there in Radio Land. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. You can also be listening on the Wider app or on our podcast, Media Cyphers Kalamazoo, or also on YouTube, of course. It's a weekly program where we come onto your radio dial and we tell y'all what is really going on here in the city of Kalamazoo, the state of Michigan, the so-called United States, and the rest of the world from a working class perspective, generally calling out the establishment on its BS and being a watchdog against mainstream corporate media. As always, the following thoughts, views, and opinions are not necessarily those of 89.1 WIDR or Western Michigan University, no matter how dope or insightful they may turn out to be. Well, we were gone last week. I was kind of celebrating with the family. I hope you enjoyed that little interregnum there. That was me doing a reading of some excerpts from an Indigenous Peoples History of the United States, and Our History is the Future. And by the way, if you like that reading and you're interested in those books, you can find them online. I know Our History of the Future, I think it's from Verso Books. I can't remember exactly where Indigenous People's History of the United States is from, but hey, look it up. I know a lot of our local bookstores carry it. So if that's something that you want to find out more about on your own time. There you go. So this is going to be our last show before winter break. I usually do take winter break off, even media can stand a little bit of take a break from the media deciphering for a couple of weeks. But we do have some important stories to talk about on today's program. And, I'd be remiss if, again, we didn't talk about, again, a lot of the issues that are maybe kind of underneath the headlines you haven't heard a lot about. I did think about spending some time talking about Pete Hegseth, but I would encourage folks check out In These Times just did a really in-depth cover story all about that dork, and you can again they're a really good resource, and that's a really great article about that. Especially in the wake of some of these bombings of fishing boats off Venezuela. And again, the way the media is hand in hand amping us up for war with Venezuela, which any millennials, young through elder, it's like that scene from Back to the Future where Marty McFly's like, I've seen this one before. It's like, no, it's brand new. It's like, again, literally using some of the same script from the Iraq War and the lead up to that. There's actually a really funny kind of takedown of this on the Daily Show, referencing the fact that again they were on air during the lead up to the Jon Stewart was hosting the lead up to the Iraq War, and the parallels are very striking. Um, so I'm kind of sorry. That was kind of off the beaten path. We always start with local stuff, and we're going to be talking about that a lot more later on in the show, of course. But I did want to start. This article came across my eyes, my desk, if you will. This originally published by ProPublica. It was republished in Bridge, Michigan, and it speaks to how a lot of these tariffs that have been coming out of the Trump administration are having impacts right here in West Michigan. It's written by Anna Clark and it was published on December 6th. Tariffs take hold in West Michigan, home of former critic turned champion. And we will get to it, but I will definitely break down a little bit, just kind of the the way a lot of these politicians, their opinions kind of shift with the wind here. But anyway, going to go ahead and read from the article. Time is winding down for Howard Miller, the storied furniture company and clockmaker in Western Michigan that said this summer it will close after 99 years. It identified the Trump administration's tariffs as a main culprit. And by the way, I can see this story has a really that is a gut-wrenching hook. You think of like a clockmaker that's been open for a century has to shut down because of the tariff nonsense. Um, Going on, Howard Miller's closure will cost about 195 people their jobs, most in Michigan. Our hopes for a market recovery early in the year were quickly dashed as tariffs rattled the supply chain, sparked recession fears, and pushed mortgage rates higher, the company's president and CEO said in a July press release. In November, the company hosted a factory closeout sale. Locals shuffled through makeshift aisles bounded by curio cabinets, wardrobes, and home bars styled with faux cocktails for an imaginary party. And there were, of course, the signature grandfather clocks that made Howard Miller famous, both traditional designs of fluted hardwood and contemporary deconstructions with visible gears. Some sported a red, white, and blue Made in Michigan sticker on their glassy faces. For nearly a century, Howard Miller was an American success story, but it struggled when President Donald Trump unleashed aggressive and fast changing tariffs this year on both specific countries and business sectors. Some countries responded with retaliatory tariffs. Along the way, there were pauses, escalations, and reports of progress towards some 14 trade agreements, falling short of the administration's prediction of 90 deals in 90 days. Companies like Howard Miller, a domestic manufacturer that imports certain goods and products, were caught in the middle. Tariffs led to rising costs on essential components that were unavailable domestically, according to the company. Pete Hoekstra saw it coming. Now the U.S. ambassador to Canada, Hoekstra was a 9-term congressman until 2011, representing the Michigan community where Howard Miller is based. He also was a vice president at the modern furnishings company now known as Miller Knoll that was co-founded by Howard Miller's father, Herman. In Congress, Hoekstra said tariffs were bad for business and consumers. The market should dictate the price of steel, not the government, Hoekstra testified before the House Ways and Means Committee in 2003 on President George W. Bush's temporary steel tariffs. Tariffs drive up costs for furniture makers and other manufacturers in his district, Hoekstra said at the time. Keep in mind, it was about 14 years ago, leading to dramatically higher prices, longer lead times for production, and lost jobs. Once lost, the jobs will not come back, he testified. Today, though, as ambassador, Hoekstra has been a top defender of the president's approach, a shift that's mirrored in the changing attitudes of other Michigan Republican leaders on trade. And again, a lot of these politicians, including Hoekstra, that used to be, just really beat their chest, free trade, free trade, free trade. Especially under the second Trump administration, they have done a complete 180, talking about tariffs are good, tariffs are great. Hoekstra recently said he had posted a social media post applauding Trump's efforts to achieve balanced and reciprocal trade relationships. And in October, after Ontario's government commissioned an ad that aired during the World Series using former President Ronald Reagan's words to champion free trade, Hoekstra reportedly chastised the province's trade representative in an expletive-laced tirade. Again, this is a man who was challenging not a Democratic president 14 years ago, but George W. Bush. He was challenging the leadership of his own party with a principled stance on free trade. Now, obviously, as a Marxist, I have my own opinion on all this stuff. But what I'm trying to illustrate here is that some of these politicians used to have like ideas and principles. And what we are seeing, with this case and in many such cases, to quote the president, is the way a lot of these politicians, their actual ideology will wash away in the face of the bullying and threats delivered by Donald Trump. There are a handful who didn't. Rand Paul comes to mind, as does Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has now been labeled a traitor by the president. But by and large, a lot of these dyed-in-the-wool neoconservatives who espouse neoliberal economics have completely done a 180 on those ideas that they used to hold because of pressure from the Trump administration. And it's not because, again, one could say like, well, people's ideas can change over time based on new information. We've all seen the rollout of these tariffs. I mean, look, we're clocking it in real time. No pun intended. Or actually, no, I'm not. I shouldn't be a coward. I absolutely intended that pun. The story is about a clock shop. So, okay. But I digress. What I should say is, based on new information, people's political ideas can change. I mean, that's the whole premise of the resurgence of American leftism, because everybody in this country is raised to be a right-wing capitalist, so you have to hope that people's ideas can change. But this was not based on any new information or new studies. We are seeing the tariff policies faceplant in real time over the course of the second Trump administration. So Occam's razor, the explanation is likely not that Hoekstra just completely forgot everything he knew about economics. It's because he wants to be on the right side of the head honcho in charge, Mr. Donald Trump, whether his ideas are good or not, which more often than not, they're not. Reading more in the article, and this is interesting because it talks a little bit more about Michigan and Canadian trade relations, which I think is something that gets lost a lot in the coverage of tariffs, and it's really important because we're a border state, and a lot of our economy is like inextricably intertwined with that of Canada's. Canada is Michigan's largest international trading partner. In fact, the state sells more goods to Canada than to Michigan's next four largest foreign markets combined, according to the Canadian Consulate General in Detroit. But Hoekstra seems to have followed Trump's lead in engaging with Canada. When Trump repeatedly called for it to become the 51st state, Hoekstra said the country's prime minister might see it as a term of endearment. Meanwhile, other Michigan, which by the way, they did not, there was a whole election that they were going to elect a Trump style figure to be prime minister of Canada, but because of all this, we're going to annex Canada rhetoric, they had a kind of centrist liberal get elected instead, who again was down in the polls for months and months and months until Trump decided to bully Canada, essentially. Meanwhile, other Michigan enterprises are making hard choices. The Michigan Retailers Association, a trade group, found that two-thirds of retailers surveyed in May said they had to raise prices because of tariffs. Agriculture, the state's second largest industry, is also taking a hit. Michigan's agricultural department reported in late August that tariffs, including retaliatory tariffs, led to big drops in exports. Wheat exports fell by 89% compared to last year, fresh cherries by 62%, and fresh apples by 58%. And Miller Knoll, Hoekstra's former employer, said in a business filing that its first quarter gross margin, a measure of profitability, decreased compared to the same quarter of the prior year, which it attributed primarily to net tariff-related costs. Miller Knoll issued a tariff surcharge and increased prices to mitigate costs based on the current tariff environment, a company executive said on an earnings call. At Howard Miller, while demand isn't what it once was for clocks, which, by the way, I love clocks. I got no watch. I'm all about analog clocks, right? So like this is genuinely sad for me. I don't know. Maybe if they have a closeout sale, I can go scoop some stuff up. But yeah, I love analog clocks. I wear a watch. Um, I'm sorry, that's like a really pointless aside, but yeah, there are people under 70 who still like clocks, and I'm one of them. So anyway, the company has diversified its product line, which helped, said James O'Keefe, vice president of sales and marketing. But a subdued housing market limited sales to people most likely to buy new furnishings, he said, and tariffs dialed up the cost of certain imported products. Now, something I want to point out that this article, kind of dances around is this is like the downstream effects of the kind of economics that, not just this administration, but neoliberalism pushes more broadly. The privatization of housing stock leads to situations where housing prices go through the roof. Most people cannot afford a new house. They live in rented apartments, dwellings. They're not going to spend as much money on these sort of ornate furnishings to decorate their space when it feels temporary, when it is not something they own. And furthermore, the price of building new houses has also gone up because of all of these tariffs. So it's having this downstream effect on companies that were economically dependent on the whole American dream of everybody gets to go buy a house. Nowadays, a private equity company gets to buy all of the houses, and if you're lucky, they will charge you rent somewhere under half of your take-home pay. Which again gives people less money to spend on things like clocks. But going on. It seemed like a family-owned company was put in a difficult position, said Nelson Vandermeer, a product development engineer. If the federal government had said, oh, it's a 10% tariff, constant, this is what it is, they might have been able to play the game, adjust margins, set pricing, he said. They might have worked out. It might have been okay, but no, it's just chaos. And he's, of course, referring to the way that Donald Trump is like just imposing and unimposing tariffs with the wind and taking it back and adjusting it and doing something different. This has been a nightmare for economists. There's even like a number of like finance capitalists who maybe have some buyer's remorse that like oh we need to elect the fascists so that we can get all of our economic buddies in. But obviously Kamala Harris was president, there would probably be some greater degree of stability going on. So yeah, that's a little bit of uh is it what is it FOMO? What does FOMO mean? Okay. But yeah, a little bit of oh no, not fear of miss that yeah, that's well, I guess there's some FOMO that drove them to hypercharge Trump's campaign with money, and now they're uh, missing out on a stable economy. Anyway, excuse me. Vandermeer, who's been with the company for more than 30 years, is grieving as Howard Miller enters its final days. I love my job, he said. I love the people I work with. When you love something, it's tormenting to lose it. The tall teal pillars of the Ambassador Bridge linking Detroit and Windsor, Ontario, mark one of the busiest land borders in North America, symbolizing a profitable and once dependable partnership. To expand capacity for the two-way flow of traffic and trade, a new span is slated to open next year, the Gordie Howe International Bridge, named for the Canadian hockey legend who spent 25 years with the Detroit Red Wings. Michigan exports $23.3 billion in goods to Canada annually, according to the Canadian Consulate in Detroit. That includes cars and trucks, vehicle parts and furniture, agricultural goods, and more. Canada is also the largest source of imports into Michigan. The standing trade agreement between Canada, the US, and Mexico was negotiated in Trump's first term. The president later described it as the best agreement we've ever made. Trump pursued some tariffs in his first term, but in his second, he played hardball, championing them as a way to grow American manufacturing while bringing a windfall of tariff revenue into the US. Gordon Giffen, who served as U.S. ambassador to Canada under former President Bill Clinton, said Trump has fallen in love with tariffs. And if there's already a trade agreement in place, Trump will argue that whatever president that put the agreement in place was an idiot. In the case of Canada and Mexico, Giffen said, the agreement that's in place is the one he put in place, and somebody needs to remind him of that. When Hoekstra landed at the Ottawa embassy in April, tensions were already high. In order to justify new tariffs on Canada, Trump had declared a national emergency over fentanyl trafficking, though the northern border is not a major source of the drug. Trump's authority to use such emergency declarations to impose tariffs is now pending before the U.S. Supreme Court. The president also questioned Canada's sovereignty. To be honest with you, Canada only works as a state, as he said. Canada responded with elbows up, a reference to the defensive posture hockey players take to ward off opponents. Certain stores emptied their shelves of American alcohol. Hockey fans booed during the national anthem, the American anthem. I think we reported a lot of this when it was first happening. It was close to several months ago, I think back in January, February. The national and some provincial governments issued retaliatory trade actions. Canadian travel to the U.S. Cratered. Data for Canada's Statistics Office shows 10 consecutive months of reduced travel to its southern neighbor. Got to go down into the article. Excuse me. Got to go down a little further in the article here. Because it references another politician more local to our neck of the woods. Hoekstra isn't the only politician who has adjusted his approach to trade. U.S. Representative Bill Huizenga, who represents among many places in the district, Kalamazoo, represented the district that's losing Howard Miller, issued a newsletter. Our district, by the way, issued a newsletter in 2018 that pushed back on the first Trump administration's tariff efforts, particularly tariffs on steel from Canada. Any perceived short-term gain from these overly broad tariffs may be quickly blunted by hardworking men and women losing their jobs in West Michigan and communities where manufacturing plays a significant role in the local economy. So here's our district's representative, fourth district, Michigan's fourth district representative Bill Huizenga, as recently as 7 years ago. Uh, again, calling out his own leader, calling out his own party, saying, "Hey, these tariffs are a bad idea." Now, much like Hoekstra, did he just did his understanding of economics just suddenly shift where the results of Trump 2.0's tariff policies just so miraculous that he had to change his entire opinion? Occam's razor. I don't think so. He's probably just again wanting to please the head baby in charge, i.e., President Trump. This year, as the article goes on to say, Huizenga supported Trump's tariffs. Is there going to be some adjustments to that? Absolutely. Is it going to be easy? Not necessarily. Is it the right thing to do? Absolutely, it is. Oh, going on, we're going to talk a little bit about some commentary about this from labor unions, the governor. An executive Miller Knoll said on an earnings call that the company raised prices and that believes this will offset the impact of tariffs in the second half of the fiscal year. Whirlpool, the specter haunting our friends over at Benton Harbor and St. Joe, the appliance manufacturer, recently announced a $300 million investment in U.S. laundry operations. While the company said it's navigating the near-term unfavorable effects of tariffs, it also said that it expects to benefit in the end as it competes against companies that depend more on imports. Going on, Whitmer, Gretchen Whitmer, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, isn't categorically against tariffs, but she said that Trump's approach hasn't properly calibrated the costs and the consequences. After asking state agencies about the effect of tariffs, she announced that they led to higher grocery prices and housing costs. At a business forum in Canada, Whitmer said, swinging the tariff hammer hurts us both, damaging supply chains, slowing production lines, and cutting jobs on both sides of the border. Over in Western Michigan, Vandermeer, the Howard Miller veteran, is among those who are looking for work. I got 10 more years, he said, before he's ready to retire. I can work if I can find something. Browsers at the Howard Miller factory sale in November came with a lot of questions, said O'Keefe, vice president of sales and marketing, as he surveyed the improvised sales floor stacked with clocks. Many locals had just learned of the closure of the company, which held a special place in community life. At the public library that's named for Howard Miller, two majestic grandfather clocks stand watch. It is sad, O'Keefe said, especially when you walk through the quiet factory floor. They used to be running 3 shifts. O'Keefe said he doesn't have his next job lined up yet, but for now, he said he's got work to do. There's the last of the inventory to sell. You can read that full article for yourself. It's over at Bridge, Michigan. Tariffs take hold in West Michigan, home of former critic termed champion. That's written by Anna Clark, published on December 6th. We're going to take a quick little break. Y'all listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. You can also find us online at Media Cyphers on Facebook, YouTube, and the Media Cyphers Kalamazoo podcast that you can find on most podcasting apps. Keep it on lock. This is Media Cyphers, your source for political revolution. Hello, everybody out there in radio land. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. Joined by my co-host Lawrence. Lawrence, how you doing?
I'm all right, man. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Your family? I don't think we've been on the show together since Thanksgiving. Did you get some time with the family?
Yeah, man. I was a bit sick, but yeah, family's cool. Family was pretty decent,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, we've been pretty. Everything's been pretty smooth. How's your family? How's the wife and kids?
Oh, this is great, great. Got together, got them all over to my apartment and stuffed ourselves on some like pulled pork and some of my wife's incredibly dank mac and cheese, and
Oh yeah, that's what's up.
spun some records, and it was a really nice time. That told some old stories around the table. A good time was had by all. It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, there was no we didn't have any we didn't have any great political debates. Like we didn't do a Hassan Piker and Cenk Uygur, when they do their Thanksgiving
Yeah.
debate. There wasn't any crazy
Well,
debates
it was kind of funny because
at
like
our
my
house.
sister, she got really into it. She knows that like, oh, Andy's the political one, so she's like, can we talk about politics? I want to talk about politics because like at home, her husband is just kind of like this like, I don't vote, but if he did vote, he'd probably vote for Donald Trump. So she's like, this is my time. This is my time. I could talk about how
It's my
stupid Trump
it's
is and all that
it
stuff.
yeah. Yeah, I need someone else to back up my claims that President Joffrey is going to get us killed. Like, yeah, yeah, I agree with you.
Yep.
I, I,
Hmm.
I agree with you. Yes, yes.
Hmm.
President Joffrey is hurting everyone.
And you know what? That might be a good segue to. We were just talking about this. We're trying to figure out what story to hit on first. And this we haven't really discussed this as much as we should be. I was talking a little bit at the top of the show about this, but what's going on with Venezuela and the boats and all of that stuff. And yeah, we're just straight up murking people off the coast of Venezuela, and we
Yeah,
are
we
hearing the
are.
same copy and paste drum beats for war that me and you and me will probably recognize as elder millennials. Like, it's this is a rerun in the worst kind of way. But yeah, maybe we could start with that.
Yeah, dog. The um, we have killed over 28 people. We had people that survived some of our illegal war crime attacks that were double tapped. Um, and for those who do not know what that means the survivors of the first attack were still hanging on to the boats, and uh, Pete Hegseth and those that's in his command said to kill them all. So they had to circle back, and then they illegally murdered innocent civilians. And again, I want to remind everyone that these are innocent civilians. Uh, you cannot kill someone in conflict, or even when it comes to theater of war. Like if we actually said, "Hey, we declare war on Venezuela," that these boats we can see have arms or whatever, there's justification. There's a chain of command to prove that what you did was legal under our American laws and under international law. America's current government is saying we don't care about any of that in any way, shape, or form.
Mm.
And I want to remind everyone during the Nuremberg trials, when Nazi soldiers were trying to use the defense that, hey, I was just following orders, that did not save them from going to The Hague. Every
No,
one of these, every one of these officials should be going to The Hague. All of
yeah,
them. Pete
and
Hegseth, all of them.
oh yeah, and it's I mean, I guess there's a whole discussion like, there be that sort of reckoning? One could hope so. If I see it in my lifetime, I'll die a happy old man. But I think for especially some of our younger listeners, I want to tie this back into a couple of different things, and this is kind of like a very terrible remix of the war on drugs and the war on Iraq. You took the worst elements of both and smushed them together. In this case, so some of our very young listeners might not remember this, but the Iraq War, which the the Trump administration, part of how Trump got elected was criticizing the Iraq War and foreign entanglements. But they are using, I should say, some of the exact same rhetoric, maybe with a couple of tweaks to try to push us into a war in Venezuela. Talking basically talking about, I watched some of the rhetoric from Fox News, and they're referring to that one, they're claiming fentanyl comes from Venezuela, which is just it doesn't. It does not. There's apparently a drug cartel that Nicolas Maduro is the head of, and that is completely fabricated as well. Um, but they're basically framing it as a chemical weapon that is being imported into the United States. And again, talking about having to like stop and narco terrorist, the term narco terrorist I've heard
Yeah,
tossed around, trying to equivocate them with Al Qaeda. And again, a lot of these expired ghosts from the war on terror, um, to try to justify an invasion or a bombing campaign or some way of overthrowing the Venezuelan government. But of course, what's interesting is like they're um, while at the same time they're doing these extrajudicial murders, which again, even a lot of people say it's a war crime, but there's not a war. You have to have a war for it to be a war crime. This is just straight up murder. And they're trying to
yeah,
basically turn the war on drugs into a literal war, which again, the war on drugs was always a cover to do a couple of different things. And you can go back talk to Nixon's policymaker. This is in black and white. Originally, the war on drugs started under the Nixon administration as a way to target black radicals and the left, anti-war protesters. Kind of bust them on marijuana or frame them for drug sales as a way to disrupt those groups. Geopolitically, it was used a lot in Latin America to destabilize governments that were not friendly towards neoliberalism or who were socialist in their policies. The Chile is probably the most famous example of that under Kissinger. They just went up and overthrew that kind of democratic socialist government, replaced it with Pinochet, who threw he was famous for like throwing dissenters out of helicopters into the ocean and that sort of thing. Um,
yeah.
and now it's 21st century. We're basically using drones to the same effect. We don't have to throw people out of helicopters. We'll just bomb them in their boats. And again, this is all just to create a very flimsy pretext to get us involved in a foreign entanglement, which you look at some of the polling on this, and at least with the Iraq war, the Bush administration did a pretty good job in their propaganda pulling the wool over people's eyes. There was a public a thin public support for the war. Now it's
There was
something
there was
like
there was better manufacturing consent because online media at the time in 2004, well, in 2000, in 2001, and in that early aughts era, wasn't as popular or as mainstreamed as it is now, right? If we could have saw what Abu Ghraib and all that stuff on YouTube on our phones or places like Democracy Now or other places like Majority Report or others, they weren't they were recognized, like they were outside voices, like Gray Zone and others at the time that would speak about it, but they weren't as popular or as mainstream or as or had the credibility of your Fox Newses and your MSNBCs and your CNNs that kept pushing out massive propaganda. So, and that's why it was so jarring, especially back during that time when you saw the Chelsea Manning tapes, right? The
mhm.
helicopters, the helicopter bombing innocent civilians and then turning around and then double tapping them, right? It's we live in an age now where they would hide, they would try to hide from the American people. We are doing these war crimes in your name, and we don't want to show you because we don't have shame, but we be embarrassed. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And the people in power is like, we don't want to be embarrassed. We don't feel like answering questions. there might still be some accountability. There might be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't have a party that will hold the others accountable for their actions. So, and also, the dummies who are doing it are celebrating their war crimes in 4K. They are literally filming and showing them on Twitter and in press conferences saying, "Yeah, we did it. What you gonna do about it?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, nah, son, what is wrong with y'all? Like, when they lose power, and hopefully they're going to lose power, everyone that's involved should be held accountable. That means the
Mm-hmm.
president and all of his chiefs of staff and all the generals who follow their orders all need to be held accountable. Because if they're not, the next fascist that get into power is going to do worse.
Yeah, and I mean, you can literally see, like this is the consequence of January 6th coming and going, and there not being any consequences from that. And it doesn't it doesn't have to be that way because, like look at what happened in Brazil. Um oh, what's his nut? I forget his name. Um
Bolsonaro,
Bolsonaro, yeah, Bolsonaro tried to
yeah,
do a J6 style coup, and he's under house arrest for the rest of his life.
yeah.
Yeah.
That the when I don't want to blame President Obama this, that is this is where some of that precedent comes from. We knew that Clinton was doing some illegal actions. The Bush administration expanded upon some of those illegal actions and did not punish Clinton. President Obama was asked, "Hey, are you going to punish the Bush administration for some of the crimes that we know that they did? We are seeing it in public." And he said, "We don't look in the past; we look forward." Right,
Hmm.
which then led to the president after him doing massive illegal things, breaking the emoluments clause, uh, enriching himself as president. Uh, uh, the His first military operation killed an 8-year-old American girl, without any due process. There's so many illegal things. Adding to what was it? He amplified drone strikes over 400%, and then stopped reporting, and then stopped giving out the annual reports because he didn't want to. He did not want the he didn't want it to be as transparent as possible. So there are multiple things that he did, and when we had Joe, right?
Hmm.
None of the people who was doing those crimes did those crimes or was associated in any of the roles of the previous administration, 45 administration, doing criminal acts were not punished. They were not punished.
No.
They were
Mm-mm.
not held accountable. And then Joe's administration helped facilitate a genocide. So yeah, it's bad out here, fam.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man.
It's it's bad. It's bad out here, fam.
Hmm. And yeah, keep in mind, I know we speak a lot about, I'm glad you really brought up that legacy because everything the Trump administration is doing right now is basically an escalation of what came before it. Like what was morally permissible 10 years ago is now being ratcheted up. There's a lot, there was a lot of international outcry at things that happened under the Bush and the Obama administrations. We had Obama extrajudicially drone a U.S. citizen. Like this.
And then Trump killed that U.S. citizen's little sister. That
Yes.
next,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So so like it it
I think the biggest
what's
difference, and
that?
I
What?
explained this to a coworker, is like this kind of imperial violence has always been going on, but previous presidents did not brag about it on Twitter. That's probably like the key difference.
Yeah.
But
Well, it was that and the blowback, the blowback from our policies did not directly, well, visual, like directly, the blowback didn't come back in such a visceral way, right?
mhm.
Like we've had, we talk about the imperial boomerang and blowback that our policies have done for years. We destabilized Central America and Africa and Middle Eastern countries, and then we are shocked and chagrined when we have migrants from other countries, from those countries that we are ruining for financial gain, for oil. Trump said it himself. He wants to go into Venezuela to take the oil, to occupy and
Yeah.
colonize their oil, right?
There've been a lot of talking
And
heads and right wing media who just like they're really saying the quiet part out loud right now. This would be such a
yeah,
boon for
yeah,
American oil companies.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man.
We're going, and this is the same administration that said that they were the peace candidate. This is the peace candidate, right? The guy that we are not getting into stupid illegal wars, right? And as soon as he gets into power, he's like, "Hey, yo, where where we colonizing first, right?"
Yep. Hmm.
So, and the other aspect of that is that we chose, and again, these are choices. We chose to not hold people accountable when they mess up or when they are doing illegal things, right? We are choosing um all of those choices, and it led to people doing worse things. It led to people doing worse things,
Hmm.
and it's going to continue to escalate. Like Trump, the 47 has already ignored multiple judicial orders when it comes to sending the concentration camps, the legalized, the illegal concentration camps that they were setting up, right?
Hmm.
Sending people to what was it? Wasn't El Salvador. It was sending people to
No, that was El
sending.
Salvador. Yeah. If you're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the
yeah,
infamous prison, yeah.
yeah, and then creating what was it? Alligator Alcatraz
Alligator
in Florida
Alcatraz.
and
Yeah.
stuff, right? So, and even when it came to SNAP benefits, judges told him you have to give up that money, and Trump was saying no. He was ignoring court orders, right? If this was if this was 10 years ago, if this was 15 years ago, and President Obama ignored a court order, President Obama ignored President Obama ignored a court order, or if Joe if this was 4 years ago and Joe Biden 3 years ago and Joe Biden ignored a court order, the right wing would have a field day.
Oh yeah, the all
Our
every
mainstream
state
media,
militia would be like ready to go invade
oh,
Washington. Like, my
oh
freedoms,
yeah,
yeah. Uh,
oh yeah, my
of course,
freedoms,
now their
right?
guy is in charge, so instead of fighting tyranny, they're going to the ICE recruitment office. But I digress.
God, yeah, yeah. The same people that said don't tread on me are the same people that's now saying step on me, daddy. Like that's what that's where we're at now. That's that is the reality of of our uh uh of our political system. It's the same thing with I know we brought it up in passing. The Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Sydney Sweeney and all of those people, right? Um, well, I know we're gonna get to that, But to button this point up, our president has continued to do illegal war crimes, and those war crimes are going to cause other countries to be like, "Hey, yo, we can do them too," or they're going
Yeah,
to be like, "Hey," or it's going to cause other countries to be like, "Hey, we don't need to deal with America right now. America's lost their mind." And if you think the economic crisis is bad now, wait until other countries say, "Hey, we don't need to go to the dollar or want to trade with America. We can go around them."
yeah, like China is looking more and more attractive to the rest of the world now, largely because, and, I brought this up towards the beginning of the program, stability. That's, a lot of these capitalists who put their money on the Trump administration to give them like, free money are now having a lot of buyer's remorse because of just the complete chaos this dude is bringing to their system. You know,
It is. It's. Yeah. I just hope and pray. Like, dog, this is the first year. This is the first year of this nut jobs of this nut job administration's uh and we've already bombed Iran. We like people forget that. We bombed Iran on behalf of Israel. We
yeah.
we 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 helped escalate in 4K the ethnic cleansing of indigenous people in Palestine. We we are choosing, and it's not. I shouldn't say we. Our government, on the behest of the donor class, of the donors to the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, have has led money to, given money to, has has push, pull, and influence on an administration that feels like they're untouchable and that they will not be held accountable for anything that they are doing.
hmm
And the
I
sad
mean,
part, and the sad, and the
there's
sad part about it, and the sad part about it is that we have Democrats who's supposed to be the opposition party kind of proving them right.
yeah, yeah. Hashtag resistance. So yeah.
Yeah,
hmm
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
the
and just to kind of cap off a couple things about the whole Venezuela issue before we move on to something else, it was 70% of Americans do not approve or would be against an entanglement in Venezuela, which again was like dramatically higher than when we've tried to do these large scale entanglements before. And it's also worth saying about the actual culture of Venezuela, because I literally saw somebody say they will embrace us as liberators, which is like literally what the talking heads were saying about the Iraq invasion. And
that's what Dick Cheney said about the Iraq invasion. That's what Rush Limbaugh
Mhm.
and Bill O'Reilly. That's what they were all echoing,
Yeah.
and
And yeah.
it's garbage.
And like a little bit about just like it's like I'm not a Venezuela expert by any stretch of the imagination, but from what I have researched about the country, they have a very proud like they are very much about local like neighborhood democracy. And Nicolas Maduro is unpopular, but he is also seen as part of the Bolivarian Revolution, which is still very near and dear to the hearts of the vast majority of Venezuelans. And any attempt to oust that government is not going to be perceived as trying to oust Nicolas Maduro. It's going to be to try to undo the Bolivarian Revolution. And just like if you have this fantasy that like people are going to rise up against Maduro, the government of Venezuela itself is arming the population. Now, if they were worried about being overthrown, would they be handing out the Thule to all of the people in the in the various neighborhoods? Probably not. No. So it's very clear
No,
what would
no.
happen. Any kind of intervention would be messed with fierce guerrilla resistance. And even if we had a situation, because I like honestly, I don't think we're gonna have boots on the ground, but I could see something not unlike what just happened to Gaza happening. But as we've seen, like the people, the Palestinians are a very resilient people. I think the Venezuelan people would be too. And at the end of the day, there is not enough gunpowder and there's not enough bombs to do what the US government thinks they can do in Venezuela.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. And the only thing that's going to end up happening, because you're I'm less optimistic than you. I think they're going to try to justify a ground invasion, and they're going to send poor, desperate people who are trying to make a better way of life. They're in America. They're going to send them down there to die, so that oil companies can steal the natural resources of that country, and then not sell it back to us for cheaper oil, but so that they can process it and sell it to other countries for 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 profit. So
That might happen, but I think, you know, they're going to learn the Vietnam lesson, which is like when we start seeing, because this is part of the reason there has been a transition into drone warfare, because when there's less US body bags coming home, it's easier for the government to kind of just influence people not to pay as much attention to the stuff. This is like
yeah,
this is a geopolitical question. You don't need to involve yourselves in it, but this administration is not made up of the smartest cookies in the shit. Pete Hegseth is all about trying to use foreign policy to reclaim masculinity. So you're right. Maybe they will put boots on the ground, but I do think we will see a level of blowback to that here in the United States that we haven't seen since the Vietnam years. That would be my prediction.
I I hope so. I hope so. But uh, yeah, yeah. That's where I'm gonna leave it there. I hope so.
Mm,
But there's always been a war effort. There's always been an anti-war effort. Shout out to people like Francesca, Fear and TD, and others, and other activists and people that's been in that space and been and always platforming, like people like Democracy Now, who's always platforming activists, and people like Jacobin, who's always talking about organizing around anti-war settlements. Yeah, diversify your news, people. Get your news from all the places, and especially people who are talking to people who are on the ground doing the work. Um,
I think I
I
want
do
to
want
use
to.
that as a
I
segue into a story if you're cool with it, but
Oh no, go ahead.
yeah, so this is another thing that I wasn't actually going to talk about this on the show. Props to Democracy Now for this was kind of on my radar, but I didn't do a lot of digging into it, and I found some details to the story that are really important to talk about, especially our show being called Media Ciphers. But this segment, it's like when the media is trying to monopolize Warner Brother. So that's what we're taking on that pun
Yeah,
all
yeah,
night. Uh,
yeah.
so,
Dog. Speak. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Before we get to that story, I do have a quick hit.
oh
I
yeah,
am.
yeah.
You want to talk about? You want to talk about? You want to talk about? You want to talk about worlds colliding. I am so sick of seeing all of these gambling sites, like every
You
like
can't
so
escape
so
them.
there's
My God,
dog
if you
there's a
stream or watch
gambling site.
anything
No,
on it, it's
okay,
just like
okay,
ubiquitous. But
okay.
go ahead. Sorry.
So so I'm trying to so I don't watch CNN that much. I just watch I think it's Abby Phillips. Like I like her. I like her, and her panels are crazy. But I like Abby. Abby's cool. She speaks truth to power. I will give her a pass. She's the only one on CNN that I give a pass. Right? Um but CNN is now teaming up with a gambling site, Like I don't know if you saw that.
No,
Yes, dog, dog. See it. Let me pull it up because let me pull it up. CNN is teaming up with a gambling site. Like it's okay. It's you. This is how you know. This is how you know that we are living in the end times. In. We are living uh
it's
in
the
Orwell.
alternate timeline from Back to the Future Part Two. Sorry, I was just
Dog,
watching
we are
that
no,
movie last week.
we are living in the idiocracy timeline. Okay, we don't usually talk about sports on the show, but there was a giant scandal, from Chauncey Billups. Shout out to Chauncey Billups. He was part of the Pistons. It's Detroit all day, Detroit Pistons all day. Y'all already know. I rep Detroit. I'm gonna rep Detroit, all Detroit sports teams, even though we don't talk about sports on our show a lot. I rep Detroit all the time. I rep Midwest all day. It's Midwest teams versus everybody. And when it's Midwest violence, it's Detroit versus everybody. Okay. So I was just saying that's how I get down. So but there was a giant betting scandal with some NBA players, and it's not just NBA players, it's also baseball players, of them betting on booking sites, right? And basically rigging games. But like not rigging games, but like a point shaving, basically, right?
Hmm.
And there was a giant big scandal with the NBA. There's been a recent scandal with baseball. Um, and I already knew it was bad. There's a whole thing that's going on with the UFC. You know what I'm saying? We talked about with boxing a long time ago, and there was a whole thing about the UFC that's also been going on recently too. But when I saw it, let me see if I could pull it. If I could pull it up, man, was it Kalshi Kalshi KALSSHI? They're a gambling organization, right? And they're teaming up. They're like it's bad enough that you see their sports ad, like BetMGM and all those different things, right? And those gambling websites. But when those gambling websites are now sponsored and advertisement on news shows, right? And the
Hmm.
things that they're gambling on is will the IDF will the IPC classify Gaza uh, as um, experiencing famine this year, right? This is a thing that you can gamble on, right? That's on that website, on that gambling site, and that gambling site is now partnered with or teaming with the news. You know, the place where you should be getting your information about what's going on in Gaza or what's going on internationally. You're setting a precedent where you can have the news. Again, we're already at this precedent where there's manufacturing of consent, right? We talked about this when it comes to with Noam Chomsky, and we talked about how in 2001 the manufacture of consent of going into war. We are now going to be having people gamble on global conflicts, and if you don't think that you betting money on international conflicts going in a horrible way, a ethnic cleansing way, and people betting money on it will not affect said policy, you have not been paying attention in America,
Mm-mm.
because people in America will influence the game if they have a financial interest in doing so. That is the nature
Thousand
of
percent.
America and
Yeah,
America politics. That is the nature of America and America politics.
man. Yeah. Oh,
Like,
that is some dystopian nonsense, man. And like so kind of like talking about. again, like, imagine it's like insider trading at another level. If you're somebody in the Defense Department,
Dog,
you're like, hey,
dog,
I got
this
some
is
gambling
insider
advice for
trading.
you.
Dog, this is insider
Yeah.
trading. Okay, it's bad enough that we have insider trading when it comes to Congress,
I
right?
mean, just look at
It's bad enough that you
the ethical nature of this administration. Do you think they will absolutely start wars to make gambling money? Are you kidding me?
dog,
Oh God.
dog, it's not just them. It's not just this when we talk about the manufacturing of consent, this is it. This is the manufacturing of consent. Hey, I know that hey, we took away your food stamps, right? We took away your food, we took away money for food stamps. We've been taking away money from housing. RFK is doing very horrible sexual acts with the person that he's was writing poems with, but
Oh
he doesn't
God.
want you eating red. But he doesn't want you eating red Skittles, right? American citizen. We've done all. Think about that. We've done all these things for you, but your parlay can still come in. Your DraftKings can still come in. Hey, uh, what was it? Poly market, right? Where you can bet on things happening. How about y'all bet on these these issues and different world conflicts that's going on? How about y'all bet on that? And guess what? If y'all bet on it and it hits, you gonna get some money.
Mm-hmm.
It
Oh
is
man. Yeah.
it is it's disgusting. It is and the only reason why I'm bringing it up, because I know we still gonna have to get to the other thing about mergers. The reason why I'm bringing it up is because there are certain mergers or certain things that should not be profit driven. If you have a betting market, shout out to the Majority Report. Majority Report covered this story, and so did TYT and a couple others. About that betting market teaming up with CNN. Shout out to Hassan Piker because he also talked about it too. Um, if certain places shouldn't have a profit motive, it shouldn't be tied to gambling. The news is one of those things. I can if y'all want to bet on sports games, if y'all want to bet and go to the casino and gamble on dice games, y'all want to play Texas Hold'em or 21, y'all want to bet on on stocks and bonds and derivatives, that's cool. That's wonderful. But insider trading, but making insider trading blatant for everyone to see like this, there has to be a line.
Yeah.
There has to be a line.
Mm-hmm. And I just to kind of put a cap on that, it's especially talking about like gambling on the news and kind of like the shadow of all these developments we're about to talk about with like what's going on with Warner Brothers. Um, it's it again, it is pushing a further and further away from the media as purveyors of information and purveyors of entertainment into basically propaganda apparati. And I wanted to talk a little bit about so as I mentioned when when companies are starting to monopolize, warn a brother. And this particular story has already had a lot of twists and turns. You probably heard last week Netflix is going to buy Warner Brothers. If you're an elder millennial like me, you're probably like Netflix, the people who send out DVDs in the mail, they're going to buy Warner Brothers. You'd think it would be Warner Brothers buying Netflix. But anyway, that story had another twist. Paramount is now raising the stakes. There's now a bidding war. And Paramount now wants to buy Warner Brothers. And there's a couple of elements to the story that I really want to dig into. But kind of the first thing is before we even talking about like the differences between these individual companies, this kind of monopolization is bad for workers in the industry. It is bad for actors. It's bad for creators for a couple of reasons. And it comes down to From a labor politics perspective, it is harder to negotiate with these companies when they are consolidated behemoths rather than when they are individual entities. And the actor strike that just happened a couple years ago over AI and a number of other kind of working condition issues, that was very inspiring. It was a big labor resistance summer, and have when these companies have more leverage over their workforce, in this particular case happens to be actors and celebrities, it means there is less opportunity for those kind of strike actions to occur, and it is less likely for them for the entertainers to get what is due to them. Makes it easier for them to shove AI down our own throats, and it also is an attack on freedom of expression. Jane Fonda, who's been a long time actor and activist, put out a really good op-ed on the Ankler, I think, about this, where she was really going into the weeds about the ramifications this could have on First Amendment speech and freedom. Because as we have seen, especially under the second Trump administration, Trump has not been afraid to use his administration to try to punish people for saying the wrong thing or things that offend him on national television or through the movies. And there's also, we'll link to these in the show notes, but there's another good article from Pressing Issues. I'm just going to quote directly. In the Trump era, corporate media executives have been all too willing to sacrifice anything and everything except their bloated compensation packages to get these deals done. They'll abandon their journalists, censor their stars, deep six every diversity program, slant their coverage, and pay bribes thinly disguised as legal settlements and movie deals. Thus far, Netflix hasn't bowed and scraped to Trump like other major media firms, though that was before they had a multi-billion-dollar deal pending with thorny antitrust issues. Meanwhile, the Ellisons' whole argument for why Skydance and Paramount should get Warner Brothers is Trump likes us best. Um, Unlike the Ellison's proposal, the Netflix deal wouldn't put CNN and CBS under the same roof, which is a small bit of good news, but the network will be split off into a separate company with an uncertain future, which means it could still be a target for a future Trump crony to buy and ruin. So, from a news perspective, if the Ellisons and Paramount get this deal, that would mean, and they've already gutted the news desk at CBS. They've replaced one of their heads with Bari Weiss, who's an ardent Zionist. They would do the same thing at CNN, which again is not a bastion of it is a corporate news network. But any sort of bite they might have had in going after the Trump administration will be thoroughly defanged. Netflix, and the thing with Netflix, you don't want to hold out too much hope for them either, because what kind of capitulation would Netflix have to offer or promise in order to get the deal over Paramount? And it's going to boil down to a lot of ideological things that Trump is going to demand: fealty to him, less things that make him look bad, strip DEI or diversity out of your company, that those sorts of things that he's demanded from others, and we've seen kind of taken into effect in the Paramount deal. Of course, it should go without saying, under any normal circumstances or government, this kind of merger wouldn't be allowed to happen. There are antitrust laws on the books that here in America that are supposed to prevent things like this from happening. But because the administration is so corrupt, they don't care. They'll just let it go through anyway. So now Paramount and Netflix are alternatively trying to prove their fealty to the boy king, to see who can scoop up Warner Brothers in this deal that is going to consolidate media even further, and beyond even just talking about another hit to journalism and news. It is also going to intensify the amount of slop entertainment that we're going to see. They're not going to take risks, going to lean into factory proven ideas, and we're going to see less diversity in the kinds of art and entertainment that comes across our screens. Sorry, Lawrence. I feel like I was talking for a long time about that. Kind of maybe
No,
offer some of your
and
thoughts on that.
nah, man. I was just letting you cook. Like the we saw the merger that CBS did, right? And we saw them can the late night show because the boy king, the child king, did not like what the comedian said, right? Like this, that already happened. We had students that were taken by ICE officials and taken to El Salvador prisons because of their free speech, right? That also happened this year. Please correct me when I'm wrong, right? And follow me as I go through this. We've seen teachers and and other professionals get fired this year after Charlie Kirk getting unalive, getting shot, and they were fired for quoting Charlie Kirk, not for making fun of him, not for disparaging his family, not doing what Charlie Kirk actually did to other human beings, but just quoting him. They were fired for expressing speech, right? We saw that happen this year, right? What do you think is going to happen? We saw in 4K um one of the directors that one of the directors of the documentary in Palestine talking about it was a documentary in Palestine. I think it was No More Lands or something like that.
Oh, No Other Land. Yeah, that's we
No
actually
Other
got
Land.
screened by Monophore Cinema earlier this year in
Yes,
Kalamazoo. Hats off to them.
fantastic. And one of those directors was shot and killed in the West Bank on camera. Not a joke, not a punchline. Real facts. We saw we saw the young girl that was trapped in the car and the IDF killed her. They killed her and the aid workers, aid food truck workers that was trying to go and help her. Right? There's a documentary also coming out on that as well. Do you think that they're going to after Warner Brothers or Paramount and the news organizations that are associated with them? So that's the Daily Show. That's also last week tonight with John Oliver. You know, Saturday Night Live. Do you think that those shows will be able to exist in a way that is able to tell the truth without the Mad King wanting heads to roll? When we've already seen that the owners of those companies will do everything that they can to appease the Mad King, and that means the coverage of those who are supposed to be telling the truth, that's supposed to be speaking truth to power, that's supposed to be able to bring some light to the very dark, bleak way that we are seeing things now, and that those people are usually the first ones to get the axe. Do you think that will continue? Do you think that it will happen less that those people are going to get the axe? Or do you think that those shows are going to capitulate to the new authority?
Yeah, and it's there's not like a really good solution like just go out in the streets and because like I'm being realistic. One of these companies is gonna get it. And then one of these companies, whoever gets it, it's gonna be based on how much they've capitulated to the president. But
I mean, dog, YouTube is owned by Google, and correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't Paramount or one of those other organizations own Google?
I'm not 100% sure on that,
Hold
but
on, hold on, because
Go, go,
I'm gonna look. No,
I
I'm
mean,
about to look it up.
Google's kind of evil in their own right, but I can't
I
remember if they're
no,
owned by
I
anybody else.
no, but I'm just saying it will hit everyone. These type of consolidations. If you think that there was censorship before on X and on other places, oh no, they're those algorithms are gonna be turned up to 11, and then they're gonna invent another knob called 12, and it's gonna go all the way up to 12, right? You know,
Mhm.
like it. That's the censorship and the misleading and blatant lies that we're going to see in the next 4 years are going to be decimating, especially to a country whose reading level is barely, I think it's seventh or eighth grade. Our country's, after COVID, our country's reading level has gotten to around seventh, eighth grade, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
We have a generation of people who may not read books, but they'll listen to podcasters, and they'll listen to podcasters who don't know nothing.
Don't know nothing. Yeah.
And I'm saying,
Yeah.
and I'm saying that as a person who's also an idiot. Like, you know, what I'm saying, I get it. You know, what I'm saying, but at least I pick up a book once in a while so I can read and know more than what I know. But like, but geez, like, it's gonna get bad, bro. Like, I
As a little, I think it was the scholar Little John once said, "It's like read a book, read a." No,
that
anyway,
was no.
no,
Stop,
so,
stop, stop, stop.
anyways,
We're not
the
doing that.
FCC
No,
would kick us off here if I finish that sentence. So,
no,
but
no, no. But dog, it bothers me. These type of mergers bother me. We saw the Superman movie, the recent Superman movie that just came out, right? And some of the political leanings and teachings of it, that they were playing with in that movie. You're not gonna get movies like that. And that was a good
no,
movie.
no,
Like I like
yeah,
that movie.
you're in like
Even
as much as James Gunn was like, oh, this wasn't really political. There were definitely some,
oh
Lex Luthor
dog,
was kind of an analog for Elon Musk, and there's some definite nods to what's going on in Gaza in that movie, and stuff like
yeah.
that is,
And also the side that the heroes should be on. You know, like it's the same thing with Wicked. Wicked's in the same boat. Shout out to there's a couple different people that's been talking about it. FD Signifiers, Francesca Fiorentini, they talked about the politics of Wicked. It's on YouTube. Go watch it. It's actually really good.
I
There
will
are very
say.
good breakdowns.
I will say sometimes the right's lack of media literacy does kind of insulate properties like that because like I haven't heard anybody on the right complain about say Andor and like that is like the most
Oh my god.
aggressively left-wing show that I think has ever been produced. But like
I,
the
I,
rest,
I
yeah,
mean, no, no. I think the most aggressive left wing show well, yeah, Indoor. I was gonna argue Star Trek, but Star Trek's just
oh,
is space. Star Trek's
I
just
mean
space
that's also
com.
true. But,
Star yes, Star Trek's just space communism. So
yeah.
like, but
Yeah, I think
that's
I think the big thing is like it's not your you don't well there's a few episodes that kind of go into that but it's not about like the you're getting like a bird's eye view of a populist revolution but
yeah.
yeah
No,
no.
no, yeah, like indoor is amazing. No, but like I'm I'm terrified of the future we have where we have this type of media consolidation and and I'm terrified of what it's going to produce.
Yeah,
And that's about it.
yeah, the only antidote I can really say to it, and I know we beat the drums about this all the time, but independent media, and it's not just enough. Like, hey, I know our listeners, you go to Democracy Now, you go to Jacobin, you go to In These Times, you go to The Nation, you go to Left Voice, et cetera, et cetera, Truth Out,
Yeah.
et cetera.
Drop site news.
Drop
Shout out
site
to them.
news.
They are out here doing the Lord's
Like
work.
you need to get not only do you need to be going to those news sources, you got to get your grandma, you got to get your mom, your dad, your aunts, your uncles, all of them on that stuff. Be annoying about it, especially because like the mainstream networks that a lot of them watch are gonna be like souring to power really, really soon. Get them on that now. Be annoying about it. I don't know, your uncle who watches Fox News. I think you need like +10 charisma to try that one, but maybe give it a shot. I don't know, but independent media, get on that and get everybody you know on that, because pretty soon that is going to be the only place you'll be able to get some decent news coverage. Also, I mean, if you're in Kalamazoo, there is a podcast about all this stuff, called Media Cyphers. You can maybe subscribe to that. But yeah, but,
Absolutely,
mm,
absolutely. I think yeah, dog. It there's that. I'm terrified for the future, but yeah, yeah.
all
Go
right.
ahead, go. No, there's some other quick. There are other quick hits that I do want to hit. I teased it earlier a little bit. So this is a quick hit, and then we can go to another story. Um, boom. We were talking about boomers and people analyzing media. 60 Minutes did an interview with MTG with Marjorie Green. I need everyone, especially people who are on the left. I need for people who are especially on the left who are about building community, who is about building bridges even with people who are troglodytes, right? And Marjorie Taylor Greene is a troglodyte. The whole broken clock is right twice a day. She is that broken clock. Okay? Just because the leopard started eating her face does not mean that she is coming to the cookout. There's no invitations. Marjorie is that is Marjorie is still the vampire in Sinners. Okay, she might not like the clan, but she's still the vampire who is not welcome in the building. Okay, like okay, and it's not just her. I briefly talked about Sydney Sweeney. We talked about it before with some of the people like Theo Vaughn and some of the other people that's in like that Rogan spear that's now trying to tap dance away from that's trying to shuck and jive away from MAGA or rebuke MAGA now, right? And it's because they got they saw some hypocrisy from the right, and then the right started to come from them, and now they feel victimized and attacked. And it's like, no, we met Marjorie when she was saying that the school shootings were fake, and that she was berating David Hogg and other school shooting victims. That's how we met her. We met her when she was saying that Jewish space lasers caused the forest fires in California. Okay, we know her as being the attack dog or the lap dog to the Trump administration. And now, because she's finally found some principles around Epstein and and because she's actually anti-Semitic and she's on the right side of not funding Israel as they do an ethnic cleansing and genocide in Gaza. She's on that right side for the wrong reason, but she's on the right side. Cool. I'm happy she's on the right side. She is still not invited over here. Okay?
No, absolutely.
Okay? I'm happy she's on the right side. Hey, it's like your cousin. It's like your cousin that is known for stealing. It's like that one family member that's known for stealing. Hey, I'm happy that they no longer get in trouble. Are they allowed to come over to this house? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They're not coming over to this house. But I see them at the family reunion. Hey, hey, they come to the family reunion. All right, I'll see them over there. They ain't coming over to my house though. They are not coming over to my house.
Nope.
They're not getting him. They're not getting in my car. Okay, that that's how we should be treating MTG. Happy for you. Stay over there.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I'm bringing her up is because of that 60-minute interview. And I'm not gonna lie, in that 60-minute interview, there were moments when she was cooking, right? There were absolute moments when she was cooking, and I was like, and I was in uh when she was talking about, hey, we should be fighting for the women's dignity that were affected by Epstein and stuff, right?
Hmm.
But then in that same breath, she'll talk about how the president was had the leader of Al Qaeda in the White House, which he literally did. He brought the leader of Syria, who was literally a part of Al Qaeda, in the White House, and that was insane. But then she juxtaposed that with also Zoran Mamdani.
Uh,
Like and it's like, see there. That's the raisins and the potato salad. That's what that is. Okay, right there. You messed up. You even in her speech, uh, her resignation speech, right? When she said that she supported Trump on banning transgender people from playing sports, that she was for the big beautiful bill. She was supporting all of the agenda that MAGA was doing. But when it came to the Epstein files, now she has an issue. When it came to Israel, now she has an issue. And now MAGA's like, you're a traitor. Yeah, yeah. She was with you on everything else that y'all did. She ain't with us. Now I'm happy that she's not with us because, hey, they need to be fighting. The right needs to be dysfunctional because the right's policies always harm the proletariat and working class people. It should
uh-huh.
not be functional.
1000%. Yeah.
But with them being dysfunctional, it still hurts the country.
That's true.
That
Yeah.
still
I mean,
hurts. It still hurts the country, right? But no, but just because I'm happy you're no longer you see the cult. You're getting out of the cult. That's cool. I'm happy for you. But you only got out of the cult because the cult started attacking you. It's the same thing with Sydney Sweeney, and I brought her up. Sydney Sweeney, when we talked about it before, right?
hmm.
How she registered as a Republican in Florida last year. You registered as a Republican after the 4 years of Trump beforehand, and the year when Joe Biden was still president, when VP Harris ran, and you registered as a Republican then. Like, we didn't already have 4 years of Trump. Okay, cool. Sydney's still a young woman. I'm gonna give her a benefit of the doubt, right? But when she did the American Eagle ad, and her commentary in the ad was borderline eugenics, right?
Great
Right, and
cheese.
yeah, right, right. It was borderline eugenics, and then she had an interview after that where they were talking about, hey, the president and other white nationalists are basically making you a white supremacist Barbie. How do you feel about this?
And she kind of just
And
made
then
this
you,
expression. She's like,
yeah,
this is-
she made the no. She said, if I feel like I need to address it, I will do so.
Hmm.
You are not denouncing the white supremacists and neo Nazis who are holding you up as their new swastika Barbie. And now you came out with a movie that was you being a boxer, a female boxer that was a survivor of domestic assault, and that you're a female boxer in a lesbian relationship after you survive domestic assault. It's a good story. It's an actually
Oh, if only I
uplifting
had
story.
cultivated a fan base that is adamant against everything this movie is about.
Yes, that's my point. Because the movie flopped. The movie absolutely flopped. It tanked. It was bad. It's one of the worst movies that came out this year. And the story is a good story. But now, after all of that, after the movie flopping, after all of that, after you're going on red carpets with your coworker Zendaya because y'all are both in Euphoria, and Zendaya doesn't want anything to do with you. Y'all not taking pictures together. It looks like the people that you was in bed with don't want to rock with you anymore. When your day ones was trying to rock with you, now they ain't messing with you. Now you want to come out with a statement, basically saying I denounce white supremacy and other things, and that my silence was compliance. You don't say that your silence was compliance, girl. I need you to take several seats. I
Mhm.
need you to go. I am again, just like Marjorie. I'm happy that you saw the light. You're still not invited to the cookout.
No.
Okay, there's no invitations. You were happy to be one of the vampires until the sun came out.
Yeah.
Now you want to no. You're not coming inside. You better go somewhere else. Go with the rest of the vampires.
Mhm.
Y'all be with the vampires. Go be with the werewolves. Okay, go kick it with the werewolves. Go kick it with go kick it with the goblins. You know what I'm saying? Go go. You know what? I heard those hags in the swamp. They make really good houses.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? They have really good. You know what I'm saying? Go kick
Oh,
with them. But you don't come over here. You're not welcome over here.
no.
Like, and it's the same thing. Like, it's the same thing with the comedian, the Joe Rogan Spear, all of those cats, right? The the hey man, I was with the MAGA people, and then it was cool, and then hey man, they're starting to be weird. No, they were always weird.
Yeah.
They were always weird. Your fan base was weird, and it made you weird. Now, since you're not making as much money because the vibes have changed, now you want to switch up. Nah, you stay over there.
Yeah. Hmm.
All right, all right.
All right. I think I might wrap up just a little bit early. I got some odds and ends to do before my next show on here.
Oh,
Um, Lawrence, got any parting thoughts before we
oh,
wrap it up?
oh, man. We oh yeah, there's a bunch of other really good um speaking on a media sense. Uh what was the story? Oh man, I just had it. I'm trying to pull it up. Hold on one second. We're gonna we I know we teased say that we're gonna be doing more content. There's a couple more contents, a couple other shows. I wanna to ask you because we still got 3 more years of this. Do you think Pete Hegseth? How long do you think before you think he steps down?
Ooh.
Because
Um,
it already sounds because some of the stories that I've been reading, and there are some stories that I've been reading that Cash Patel is about to get fired. Cash Patel is about to get fired, especially after trying to get the FBI to get some security detail for his girlfriend. That whole fiasco. I
oh
don't know
yeah,
if you
yeah.
remember
Hmm.
that. Yeah, and there's been some speculation and in the whole TPUSA thing with Candace Owens again, Candace Owens and TPUSA going back and forth. That's a whole other story. That's a whole other thing that we have to talk about. Um, but yeah, man, there's a bunch of things that we need that we'll catch up on in our next episode.
All right. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We're going to be taking a break during winter break, but we will be back in the new year calling out the BS. Thanks again, Lawrence, for joining us. You can find us online, Facebook, YouTube, and the Media Cyphers Kalamazoo podcast. Happy holidays, everybody out there. Spend some good time with your family. Try to forget a little bit about troubles of the world and have a good time with you and yours. Until next time, everybody. Keep on fighting for that revolution solution.